Let's talk about step 3, where we talk about making the right choice for your personal agility team. And there's one question that often is asked: which method is better? And well, the great debate of which method is better no longer applies. And I'm happy to be able to say that. And that's because contact training truly has evolved. And that's why we're so excited to do this webinar. All right, so when it comes to picking a contact training method, what are your options? So you can use a stopped only, a running only, or both, one stopped and one running contact. Let me show you what that looks like. So here's a graphic, and on the left and on the right, you see both the stopped and the running, and you see a dog walk and an A-frame. So your options are: you can do all stopped, you can do all running, or the latest trend is to use a stopped on the dog walk and a running on the A-frame. That is the trend, and that's where people are going. And I think that contact training is becoming so much more personalized based on the obstacle, and it's no longer about handlers having to pick and choose just one of the methods. So I think we should start thinking more about what's best for your dog on each individual obstacle. All right, so here's what to look for and why it's important in a contact training system. So it's not just about the stopped or the running, it's about you want to find a system that is criteria focused, is based on reinforcements and rewards, it creates independent contacts, trains in clear units or stages so that you have a check mark system so you can say, yep, I've worked through this, I've worked for that next part. It's efficient. In other words, it focuses on quality versus quantity. Remember when Stacy said the days of doing thousands and thousands of dog walks is over. Basically, minimal props. You want things to remain focused on the skill that is being trained. And you want a contact training system that's definitely evolved. So those old myths that we talked about, they don't use that in their system. And last but not least, and probably the most important, you want something that builds confidence for both you and your dog. All right, so how do you decide which contact method is first on your list? Well, you should go ahead and ask yourself, which position supports your personal agility goals right now? Which position supports your personal agility goals in the future? Are you more comfortable with one position on the dog walk and another position on the A-frame? And is there a specific reason, say for example, a physical or a comfort level or experience, that you should choose one or the other of the contact methods? All right, so when I was in my early training days, I thought I had my contact method set. Remember, I told you about I was jumping around and it didn't work? Well, I spent years thinking about contacts and how at that point I really thought that maybe they were good enough. And that's because, quite frankly, I didn't have the choices that we have today. And when I was thinking my contacts were good enough, two things happened. First, I began to notice that we barely qualified. And it was because we always missed either a dog walk or an A-frame contact. So those darn contacts were robbing me of cues. And I thought I was managing them, but my low qualifying rate told me that something wasn't working. In other words, the management, it wasn't really happening, nor was it going to be able to happen. Second, it wasn't until a judge commented on my missed contact immediately after my dog jumped off the A-frame and said that wasn't even close, that I realized my lack of training was obvious to everyone, and especially the judges. So I wish I could tell you that I went home and immediately committed to finding a criteria-based contact method, but the truth is I didn't. And well, that's okay. I learned quite a few things from that. And if you look at the picture on your screen, so that's Pinky. As you can see, her rear foot is barely making that contact zone. And I'll bet you she was probably about 10 years old at this point, and that was probably the only reason we got that contact, to be honest with you. And so while I was willing to accept dicey contacts from her, I mean, because after all, I'm the one that failed to train her, I decided that I was never again going to cheat any future dog out of a clear-cut criteria-based training that, quite frankly, they deserved. And I can tell you, when I made the choice to go to a criteria-based contact method, every single one of my dogs, since I've owned since her, have had stellar contacts. And I can tell you that having the freedom that comes with consistently confident contacts was the best training decision ever. So how do you get consistently confident contacts? Well, you invest in a contact training system that literally works with criteria. To learn more, go to spotonagility.com/contact training.